This is HBR News number... What number is it? 532. Epstein files. Could Oregon set precedent? Where we discuss the news of the week, give it the Badger treatment. Sorry about rushing through that. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Hope you guys are doing well this holiday week and that you're laughing at all of the absurdity so that you're not consumed by it. I'm your host, Brian, and I'm joined by Dr. Rana McCam. Hannah is not available. I think that they have her working all kinds of extra hours at her real job. So it's just you're stuck with us, which means it might be a smaller than normal sausage, ironically. It's going to be a good show, so I hope you guys are, regardless, we have a packed show, lots to talk about. And hopefully you guys will be able to continue the conversations both in the live chat as well as the comments after the stream has concluded. On this week's show, we're going to be discussing like the sort of like newly released Epstein files, or at least some of the stuff we know about them. China is doing what it can to address their own failing birth rates and more, so stick around. It's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So on the patron show, we're going to be going through like a little bit more in depth and just sort of talking about, you know, what the DOJ has been putting out. They're still putting out more content, like even now. So it's sort of like a constantly developing thing. And I mean, I think that, you know, I would say it's like I don't have an opinion on it just yet. That's all I'll say. Oh shit, sorry, audio from something else was blaring. Because it's a little too early to, you know, like have like a final thought on it, but there is a lot coming out and a lot of it's not that surprising. So I guess there's also that, but we'll look at it in the patron show. Well, the way that they have it set up is essentially there's like a search bar and you can like put in, like for example, I put in Spacey and I got all of these entries and all this many pages, and it'll basically like, you know, it'll basically just go through all the documents and search for terms. And I figure we can like play a game, search terms and find out who has the most entries, I guess. So if you want to join us for that, for a little game of, find the nonce, then you got to become a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and starting a subscription. $5 a month will get you into the Discord server where you'll be able to watch all of the additional content. And that will include this kind of show here. And if you give it higher levels, you can even be a part of the conversation. So please go to feedthebadger.com/subscribe. And just like a heads up, Wednesday and Friday, we are not going to be doing shows. Allison wants to take a little time off for the holiday, although we are going to be doing a show on Christmas Day, which means for me, Christmas is going to be busy because I'm going to be doing a few things that day. So yeah, we're going to be doing a call-in show kind of thing for people who want to come on and talk to us. It'll be done through X Spaces, so make sure you have an X account and you'll be able to join us for that. That'll be on Christmas if you're interested. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that our content has been removed from the internet permanently, then go to badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com. That is where all of our content lives. So with all that said, I want to say hello to some of the people that are watching the show. Also, let me bring up the Discord so that I won't miss any super chows that might come through. Let's see. Come on, Discord, open up. All right, cool. And let me delete that. Okay, so yeah, shout out to Oikophobic Misanthrope. Hello, Jim Bottle. Hello, Night Motorcyclist. Hello, Butterscotch Wolf. Hello, welcome to the show. Gabriel. Hello, and Mr. 0303 over in the Rumble chat. What's up to all of you guys? Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. You could be anywhere and you choose to be here, so that says something. All right. So with all that said, let us get into today's story. So first, I'm just going to leave this up. I wasn't going to cover this because I didn't know how significant it was, considering there have been other releases of these files and they were underwhelming to say the least. But apparently the December 2025 releases from the U.S. Department of Justice, which are available on their website. So there's a lot of people covering it, and they all have their own opinion. And I basically looked for the most objective source, and that is essentially justice.gov, at least as objective as we're going to get. Hello, Meredith. And this is where you can get all of the documents. So it contains thousands of documents, including investigative materials, court records, emails, flight logs, and hundreds of photographs seized from Epstein's properties. The releases began on December 19th and continued in batches, including a large one on December 23rd, today, with nearly 30,000 pages, with heavy redactions applied to protect victim identities and sensitive information. Reports indicate that much of the material overlaps with previously public or leaked items, and no major new evidence of previously unknown criminal accomplices or blackmail operations has emerged from the disclosed portions. Although I did do this examination like hours ago, and I think that since then there's been some news. I think the Quartering talked about like potentially 10 accomplices to Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein. I have to follow up on that. I can do it. We can do it in the Patreon show. Like I said, there's like constantly developing things that are happening. So anyway, key elements from the newest information in these files. And by the way, there are pictures and stuff, but I'm not going to put anything up because I don't know what it's going to do for our channel. It's very sensitive information. Yeah, there's a lot of blacked out faces and stuff, but there's a lot of sketchy imagery as well. And I don't know how Allison would feel about it. It is her channel at the end of the day. I'm just sort of like, you know, the steward of the channel, as it were. So I'm not going to show any images or anything like that. But there are photos. So photographs of guests and associates. Images show Epstein socializing with various prominent individuals, often in undated or social settings. Pictured figures include former President Bill Clinton in multiple photos, in a pool or jacuzzi alongside redacted individuals, at events with Mick Jagger, or on a plane with Michael Jackson and Diana Ross. There's images of Michael Jackson standing next to Epstein in front of artwork, also with Clinton and Diana Ross. Diana Ross, again, also in there. Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, Richard Branson. I don't know who Richard Branson is. Anybody know who Richard Branson is?
He's a British billionaire. He's in charge of Virgin Airlines and another products called Virgin.
That changes.
He's a bit like the British Donald Trump. There's lots of British Donald Trumps.
Yeah.
Just like there's a lot of American Richard Bransons. You know how it is.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Ghislaine Maxwell, Mick Jagger. Many photos feature redacted or obscured faces, particularly of young women, to protect potential victims. Also, though, there is also lots of imagery of boys and underage men. And this is something that people, when they talk about the Epstein, this whole Epstein thing, in terms of his victims, it's almost exclusively girls that are talked about, but there were male victims as well that were trafficked. Anyway, a painting of Bill Clinton in a dress, which we already saw, passports, including one with Epstein's photo under a different name, screenshots of messages related to recruitment, framed items such as oversized checks or artwork, and photos of Epstein with unidentified or redacted women, some in group poses, 4 women in identical clothing with hands in a prayer position. That was one that I saw as well. So kind of weird stuff. And there was one thing. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
No, you go on. Finish up.
I was going to add something, but I can wait until after you've said something. So you can give your thoughts.
Well, I'm going to be saying the thing for a long time. We're never going to get shit, are we? At least nothing of substance. None of this is any more substantive than that hoax picture of Trump at Mar-a-Lago at some kind of makeup commercial or whatever it was, posing with a bunch of adult women with censor bars placed over their faces as if to insinuate that they were victims. It's like, we know Epstein had celebrity parties. We know those parties led to shady background deals. That's not what we're interested in. And if you're going to redact the faces of the supposed victims, it doesn't prove anything. Even if you did show their faces, that still doesn't prove anything because adult women tend to wear makeup to make them look like teenage girls. Unfortunately, what we're really interested in seeing is the one thing that we're not super interested in seeing, namely the images of, well, CP. The incriminating pictures that were taken for blackmail purposes, depicting these various big shots engaging in this illegal activity. It's pretty obvious that we're not going to get those, and we wouldn't want to get them anyway.
We probably shouldn't.
Because if we did get them, we'd all be guilty of possessing images of CP. According to the police, we'd be guilty of creating those images, because that's what they mean when those images appear on your computer. And then we'd all get arrested and imprisoned, while the unspeakable untouchables who committed those crimes will continue to walk free. Especially when it comes to the people in question, the people listed just now. Bill Clinton, yes, yeah, we knew that.
Yeah.
Everyone knew he was a sex pest and very probably a rapist. The man could go on live TV and confess to Ian Watkinsing 1,000 toddlers, and he still won't get arrested. Ex-presidents never get arrested unless the deep state wants them arrested for upsetting the apple cart. Hence, the only ex-president who's ever been arrested. Mick Jagger? Yeah, fucking Mick Jagger. There are playground swing sets that have been sat on by fewer underage asses than Mick fucking Jagger. Epstein Island is the least of Mick Jagger's problems.
I didn't know that about Mick Jagger, though. I didn't. I figure when you're a rock star, you don't have to, like, that about Mick Jagger. You know. What?
Anyway. Kevin Spacey. Yeah, we all knew Kevin Spacey was a nonce. He basically confessed it, but while confessing it, he came out of the closet at the same time. And so that makes him a victim, do you see, because he's been living his life as a gay man. Also, a few people did conveniently die under mysterious circumstances during his potential conviction for noncery. That happens a lot. Mm-hmm. It happens because that's actually how we get. That's how we get convictions. We need pictures of allegedly underage girls, and that even in this day and age, that ain't gonna cut it because of the fucking AI fucking bullshit that's happening now. We need victims to come forward with receipts, actual receipts, and that keeps not happening because when victims have receipts, they end up conveniently, accidentally, brutally cutting their own heads off with a spoon. Of course, a much easier method is to just throw those chicks overboard in international waters, which was easy for Epstein and Maxwell, because they were constantly on boats when sailing between their island and the mainland. Ironically, that's how billionaire media mogul Robert Maxwell died.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly knocked off by dodgy sailors, like Freddie Mercury, but in a different way, in a very different way. Robert Maxwell, for those of you who don't know, was Ghislaine Maxwell's father. I guess she's been. I guess it pissed her off to no end, and she's been taking it out on other people's children ever since. So yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking like we're ever going to get any closure on this, let alone any convictions. I don't know if the current Trump administration had good intentions going into this, but so far all they've done is muddy the waters. Don't get me wrong, it's It's an even more damning indictment on all the previous administrations to have never even attempted to touch those waters, despite everything they knew. But these investigations by the current Trump administration don't seem to be helping. It's like they're trying to pull the turd out of the drain, but in their attempts, all they can do is push it further in. It's a disappointment, to say the least. But hey, it's better to be ruled by disappointing cops than to be ruled by the evil mobsters that those cops couldn't even catch. And to anyone who's still supporting the mobsters and gloating over the fact that the cops didn't catch those mobsters, yeah, no, you are still scumbags. Mm-hmm. You're not winning. You're just caustically smug that we're all still losing. Because all of us losing is a better outcome to you than the people you don't like winning, which is your own people. Because you're knobheads. You're oikophobic fucking knobheads. Knobheads! I say to you. Right.
The one thing I will say about this is it's a very tricky situation because there's a lot of redactions, and Trump himself bemoaned the reputations that could be ruined by this. Now, of course, people are going to say, oh, well, he's protecting pedophiles. No, that's not it. Think about it like this. Jeffrey Epstein was a socialite, a financier. He went to all the parties. He knew everybody that was anybody. So if you went to any kind of shindig, he was going to probably be there if there were like important people there, and you were probably going to end up in a photo with him whether you want it or not. And maybe you don't even know the guy because like until all of this happened, we didn't know who he was until all the lawsuits came out and all of that. So it's I think that it's, as people who are, or at least myself, as somebody who's concerned about false allegations and guilt by association, I think that it makes sense that Trump would have like concerns because, you know, if you just like say, here's everyone who ever took a photo with this guy ever. The problem is that everyone's going to assume that every person in a photo with this guy is guilty of something. And that's just doesn't make sense because he was somebody who was in these like sort of like, you know, social circles. He was like getting around. He was making connections. He brought people together. He was a middleman. He was all these other things too, right? This is why like one of the photos when I was talking about was Michael Jackson. So like Michael Jackson, I'm pretty sure he's not guilty of any of the things that he was accused of. And Razorfist made a really great couple of videos about it. He's addressed it multiple times and did a lot of research. And of course, a lot of the people that were trying to destroy Michael Jackson's reputation were using like, you know, I guess like his eccentric ways of like, you know, expressing himself or whatever, like what he was doing. But because he was denied a childhood, it's a whole thing that I think that deserves more sympathy than it gets. But he was also going after the music industry for trying to steal people's intellectual property, and he became an enemy of the big music, the record labels, and there was collusion, there was desire to see him ruined, and he was essentially destroyed by them. And so now these photos come out, and again, I would say that it's likely that somebody like Michael Jackson or even Trump, who, you know, there's just a couple of pictures of him, and he's been on the plane, but according to the records, he has never been to the island, and when he used the plane, it was the same plane to go to different locations, and he had his family with him. So unless you think like he was bringing all of his kids to Epstein Island, like, which is retarded, then you should realize that it's not as simple as if you knew this guy, then it made you a bad person. It's sort of like, you know, I've been to like multiple ICMIs when we used to go to the ICMIs, right? So I went to Australia once, the UK twice. There was one in Chicago. If there was like somebody who was a regular that attended the ICMI and I didn't know them very well, but I always saw them there and like, you know, for whatever reason, while we were there, we would get along. Maybe we'd like have a drink together or something, and we took some pictures. And then later on, it came out that he was like, you know, or she was like trafficking children, and they went into that person's history to find out any known accomplices or associations. And there's pictures of me in there. It would be like putting that out there, right? And there was an attempt to do that. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't want to get too like drama oriented, but Lauren Southern, when she made this big tell-all video about like some experience that she had with some member of the MRM whose name was never given to us and we don't know who it is, but she just made this claim that this happened and used it to condemn all of us. Is what I'm saying. Like, this is the stuff you have to be very careful of. So when he says, you know, I think there's a lot of innocent people that are going to have their lives ruined by this, I think that that's a really good point to make, especially again in this time post Me Too and everything else, right? So it's tricky because we want justice for the victims. We want the people who are responsible to see time, but I do think that we have to be patient and we have to be very, very vigilant and like, you know, observing the evidence as it is and letting things move slowly. I think people, they want too much too soon. And I think that innocent people could end up, you know, essentially suffering. Probably already there's going to be some innocent people that are going to be suffering, or you know, maybe postmortem, right? So that's why I say like for example, another couple of guys that were in photos were magicians. I don't know, it's weird, right? But like David Copperfield and David Blaine were doing magic tricks on the island. Now, they were there, like with photos and everything. Now, does that mean that they were partaking? I don't know. I mean, I assume if they're on the island, maybe. Like, I think that's like more damning than like just being at a party and taking a picture with the guy. But if you're over there, that's a different thing. So, all I'm saying is that I think this is something that we should be. Like, don't get too excited about it. It's not going to happen overnight. And yeah, some things we may never see justice for some of these people. I mean, I still want that, but I don't know that that's going to happen, you know? And yeah, so I think that I can understand why Trump was concerned. And again, a lot of lefties are thinking that he's just covering for himself. But again, I'll just repeat that if he was actually partaking in any of the shit that like they're claiming he partook in, and some people have tried to do this, like one woman on X, and this comes back to like false allegations, which is why I chose this story. Ultimately, I wanted to talk about male victims because there's definitely young boys and men who were trafficked in this way, in the same way the girls were, and no one talks about that. So I'm pointing that out because there's actual photo evidence of it. And the other thing is that this is being used as a bludgeon to destroy the lives of innocent people, or at least people who haven't been proven guilty. And I think that that's important, that we don't get into that witch hunting mode. And that was so like there was one of the files was a report that was filed by an anonymous person that made the claim that Trump raped her and that Epstein helped. Okay. It was part of the files because it was one of the things that was mentioned, but it was a claim not proven made by an anonymous person. So people found that and they put it all over the internet saying, look, it happened. This is what I mean. There's nothing to substantiate that. And again, if it was true, we would have learned about it when the Dems were in office. Like when Biden was in office, it would have happened. Trump would have been in jail. They didn't do it because there's probably nothing there. But they'll use anything they can. And it's not just a Trump thing. Let's leave that aside for a moment. It's the principle of the importance of like using, not acting on anything until you have evidence. And some people are just using this for destruction. So I'm just laying it out there. Definitely think about it.
The obvious joke with Michael Jackson is, but he wasn't into teenage girls. He was into young boys and he's an example of someone who has been thrown under the bus since 30 years ago. Yeah. Just like Trump has been thrown under the bus since 10 years ago to create this fog of war, to throw doubt and shade on anyone to make sure we never actually hone in on the people who actually did these things, not just because they were blackmailed into it, but because they were fully on board with these things. Jacko was never on board with these things.
No.
Michael Jackson was asexual. Let's be honest. He didn't understand any of these things.
He never got to grow up, basically.
Yeah, but what he did was criticize the Jews at one point.
Yes.
Robert Maxwell, yes, he was indeed Jewish. And so it's not just that Jeffrey Epstein was Jewish, it's that Ghislaine Maxwell was also Jewish. Now, I'm not saying this means anything, because if I say this means
it's a coincidence and you should never speak about it.
Don't be noticing any patterns, folks.
Yeah.
There are no patterns, there is only racism. I'm very sorry for being so racist.
Yeah, you stop it. But by the way, Mike is in Scotland. Are you? Have you seen your folks yet?
Yeah, that's why I'm in Scotland. I'm visiting.
Are you? Well, I don't know if you just landed or whatever, but how long does it take to get from where you are to Scotland? How short is that? A flight?
Yeah, if I told you that, it would dox me slightly.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
I live in England, and my whole family lives in Scotland. But
But you're English, not Scottish.
I'm a citizen of the UK.
Okay.
I'm part English, part Scottish, part Welsh, part Northern Ireland.
Wow, you're cosmopolitan.
Yeah, I'm like Americans who have lived in various different states.
Yes.
You're still American, and I'm still UK. Like I'm not a Northerner, I'm not a Southerner, I'm not Scottish, Welsh, or Irish, or English. I'm all of the above.
Yeah.
We're allowed to do that. At least I am, because I'm obviously of these islands.
Yes.
As opposed to the people who are obviously not. You have the same problem over there. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes. All right. Well, anyway, with that said, though, I just want to point that out. If we get any real crazy news, we'll probably follow up. But for now, these things are as they are, and I'm not sad or happy about it. I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah. We've had this kind of stuff for as long as there have been people, and it's a shame. All right, so let me see. Any new people?
I don't think we can ever hold these people accountable for what they've done. But what we can do is make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yes.
I think maybe.
Well, I think it's possible. The internet has definitely been a gift for as long as it remains somewhat free. But okay, let me greet more people in the chat, and then we'll move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I did get a super chow from Meredith G. Thank you, Meredith. She gives us $5 and says, HBR News 532, Honey for the Badgers, and Merry Christmas. Thank you for that. All right. Hello to Meredith G and Zaranx and Jim Bottle, Butterscotch Wolf. Hello. I think I may have already said hello to you, but whatever. Murder of Crows. Hello. Let me see. Legendary Jew says Danny DeVito is just went there for the snorkeling. I believe that. Bongwater. Hello. Slump is a pedo and we all know it. Okay, bring the receipts. J.O. Bale says, remember when a journalist from GQ brought a PDF to a men's rights conference and try and spooge the manosphere? Yes, I wasn't around for that, but I do remember that. This is what I'm talking about. Yes, that's a good point that you make. This is like how you engage in reputational destruction. All right, and Matt Watton, welcome. All right, so with that said, let us move on to the next story. Okay, China. China wants more babies. After several failed attempts to increase its falling birth rate by offering incentives, China has decided to start using penalties. Starting next year, all condoms and contraceptives will be placed under a 13% value-added tax, which is a stark change as these items were previously VAT-free, value-added tax-free for the last 30 years. So they're adding a tax to condoms. This is just the latest development from the fallout that was China's disastrous one-child policy, a policy that still haunts China's birth rate numbers. But it isn't all penalties. New tax breaks have been added for childcare and marriage introduction services. China has also set aside a $12 billion pool, which will see payments of roughly $500 to be handed out to anyone with children under 3 years of age per year. So you can get like $500, I guess. Well, I mean, it's roughly 500 American dollars. So I don't know how many yuan. Is that what they call it in China? Is that the Chinese currency? I think it's yuan. Of roughly $500 to be handed out to anyone with children under the age of 3 per year, as well as expanding their national health insurance to cover all childbirth-related expenses. Unfortunately, these incentives have done little to move the needle. While the birth rate in 2024 rose to 6.77 per 1,000 people, it is still far below normal levels. So no matter where you go, birth rates are plummeting. I think like in like some third world areas, they're going up, but that's only because maybe in part because people are not expected to like, live to adulthood. So they're it's kind of reproducing like rabbits in the hope that the fittest will survive. But yeah, so China's going through it. And it is, I was going to say, it is a part of that one-child policy from back in Mao's days. And they're still trying to recover from that, despite, still having a pretty big population compared to the rest of the world. And there was something else I was going to mention, too. I learned this. There are Chinese elites. So I don't know if you knew this. There are Chinese elites, so like really rich Chinese men who are coming to Western countries like the United States, and they are buying surrogate mothers for their children. Yeah. So they're paying women to basically use IVF. So it's not even for sex. They use IVF and they're impregnating like 20, 30 women with IVF. And they're having those babies in the States so they become dual citizens. And then those kids will grow up and they'll go back to China. And this is like supposedly to address the birth rate problem, but it's also kind of like a way that China can, sort of change the United States and its and other Western countries demographically. They're definitely doing this in Canada as well. If you've ever been to, it's I'm sorry, I'm forgetting I'm blanking on the area, but in Vancouver. So like the western part of Canada, it's BC, British Columbia. It's so Chinese there at this point that the signs are in Chinese and people just speak Chinese. Like it's turning into China, and it's because of the location. So people just go to British Columbia from China, and Canada just lets them in. And I think the Prime Minister of Canada is basically like in bed with Xi. Anyways. But anyway, I'm digressing. I'm just saying that it's weird what's going on there. But they're taxing condoms. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that. But
I repeat, whelp. And I will repeat that once again, whelp. People are escaping their own countries to go to other countries because their own countries are treating them like fucking trash. And yeah, this bullshit we're talking about in China is going to happen in the West. I mean, I'm pretty sure condoms are already taxed over here in the generality of the West. I mean, everything is taxed over here. But now they're going to be taxed even more. Every time the Chinese government does something insanely communist to, once again, line its own pockets by punishing the people, every time that happens, Western governments look at that shit and go, hell yeah, that's genius. What if we punish the rich by making them pay more while we punish the poor by making things unaffordable in one fell swoop? Why didn't we think of that? Well, I guess we already did, but China's going to go even more communist, so now we have to go even more communist too. It's always the way. They get social credit score, so we get social credit score. Mm. They arrest people for criticizing government policies. We arrest people for criticizing government policies. They muzzle their people. with pointless paranoid face diapers. We muzzle our people with pointless paranoid face diapers. They slaughter innocent people using tanks and bullets, and then they ban everyone from mentioning it. We slaughter innocent people using mandatory biochemical warfare, and then ban everyone from mentioning it. The only thing we're not doing is putting the local Muslims in concentration camps. But that's because, I mean, how the fuck is that supposed to help us control and torture our own native people? Sorry, not interested. And yeah, that's all this is. Taxing contraception and subsidizing childbirth is not going to improve your population stock. It might make the numbers go up, but only among the desperate degenerate class. People who can afford to raise children, who can afford to give them a stable upbringing, are not going to give a shit about a 13% tax on condoms or a $500 bonus. But it might make more impulsive poor people have less protected sex and more unprotected sex, leading not to a surplus of the wanted, but to a sewage outflow of the unwanted. All this can possibly do is create more teen pregnancies, more trailer park octomoms, more high-rise man deserts, and more urban backwater criminal spawning machines. This is the problem with communists. They don't understand the difference between quality and quantity, or at least they don't understand that quality is necessarily good and that quantity is not necessarily good. But quantity is easy. Quantity is easily measurable. Number go up. Fucking job done. That's all they understand. If you think you're going to improve anything by having the government continue to reward women for being mothers while it punishes men for being fathers by stealing from men to pay women, then you is tripping, dog. I believe that's how that is pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
Far too many women are more than happy to have the government act as their sugar daddy while they exile the men from their lives and raise their fucking tearaway spawn by themselves. Men, on quite the other hand, are more than happy to allow women to have a hand in raising their children, as long as those men can go to work and not have their wages stolen by the government. This is how it has always worked. Men will gladly reward women, the women in their lives, for raising the children they have together. If you leave men and women to their own devices, this is what will happen. Men will reward women. And, dare I say, women will reward men for rewarding them. Bruh. I notice no one ever suggests that the government should be paying men to be fathers without paying women to be mothers. Even though that actually might help. That might actually accelerate the natural process. If men had even more incentive to work hard for their family without anyone skimming the spoils of their hard work, and if women weren't getting any subsidies except from the men who love them, the men who want to raise their children, that might actually have the results you're looking for. That would actually foster quality families. And once you have that, once you have quality families, the quantity will sort itself out. Happy families who stay together and can afford families will gladly pump out a dozen children and you'll get exactly what you're looking for. But to be clear, I'm not suggesting this either. I don't think the government should be subsidizing fathers either. I just want the government to stop punishing fathers, to stop stealing from men. That would have exactly the desired effect I'm talking about. You don't need to incentivize men. You just need to stop disincentivizing them. But for some reason, no government can figure this out. There doesn't appear to be a government in the world that can so much as countenance the notion that if you just leave men to their own devices, they will run their families like a well-oiled machine. They will run their companies like a well-oiled machine. And they will even run their countries like a well-oiled machine. I'm not saying that women are the only problem. And I'm not saying that governments are the only problem. But when you put them together, women and governments, you get a chemical reaction that can dissolve everything within 100-mile radius, within a fucking 1,000-mile radius. It's like acids and bases. It's like sodium and water. It's like fissionable material and high pressure. I don't know to what degree this reaction is natural. I don't know to what degree it has simply been gradually harnessed as a doomsday device. All I know is what everyone can see. You can have one or you can have the other. You can't have both. You can't have women and government. And as accustomed as I am to saying this, I think women are pretty much essential. Technology has a long way to go before women are no longer essential, and we have like artificial wombs. We're talking the year 40,000 with the Warhammer and whatnot. That's not the ideal scenario, especially not for any ladies listening. And that leads us with the obvious conclusion. Government is not essential. It's a machine that was invented fairly recently, and ever since its inception, it has been chemically reacting with the volatile nature of women to effervesce uncontrollably and make a wasteland of everything. So let me say what should have been said all along. Interesting idea, China. Counter proposal: shrink the fucking government. There can be productive reasons for mixing acids and bases, or for mixing sodium with water, but you need to wind your fucking neck in. Reduce the power of government to its most microscopic nucleus. If we do that, we will notice women being no problem at all, and we will not need to change anything about them. Bizarre idea, I know. Maybe women never needed to change. Maybe men never needed to change. Maybe the fucked up machine that descended upon us all was the thing that never needed to exist. And with that food for thought, I yield.
Yeah. It looks like China is just going to, well, they're just going to keep making things worse. You cannot solve social problems with government solutions. And I don't know why people keep insisting on it. And it's like everything that I see people complaining about with regards to, you know, their governments, or like foreign governments, whatever. It always is them saying, why doesn't the government do something? The government shouldn't be doing anything, guys. But the one thing they could do is get out of the way so that people can figure it out. You know, that's it. Like, stop. But they're not going to, because the governments have a they're on a power trip. They think that they can, just make a new program, create a new ministry, put in some new legislation, and then people will just, fall in line, or they'll get the message. It just doesn't work that way. All you're going to do is probably the men are going to be pickier about who they sleep with, and the women even more so. I mean, and I think the women in China, I was trying to find it because there isn't a lot of information in China, but my guess is that Chinese women are just as hypergamous, if not more hypergamous, than women in the West, at least as much as they are in like South Korea. So, which is pretty freaking high. Except that, the because like culturally, they're not that dissimilar, but government wise, China's definitely more, in line with totalitarianism. Probably not as much as like say North Korea is, but they're not far off, and they're definitely like a godless, morally vacant country. But I think that you just don't solve these problems this way, and things are just gonna continue to get worse for them. And that's why I think that that's why they're trying to like, move over here and spread this way because we allow them to. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I think it's interesting that the solution to the birth rate is tax the men, because that's what that means, right? They could just ban birth control. I mean, I don't know that that's like a good thing, but I mean, they could do that, but they didn't even think to do that. No, we'll just tax the men, and then we'll give money to people who have kids. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I got some super chats to read through. Thank you so much. Zeranx for 5. He says, everyone tries to use government to correct the birth rate issue, and they never realize that government is the problem rather than the fix. Yes, that's just what I just said. SuckDuck5915 says, ancient Greek harvested a plant to extinction to have free sex. Nothing short of a full and severe ban will stop this. Of course the Greeks would do that. Nobafan21 gives a rumble rant for $1 and says, what Brian says about China and Canada seems to line up with what I've noticed. Quite a few VTubers are not only Asian, but also from Canada and often Chinese. Yes. Richard Bier gives us $5 super chow and says, I didn't have China going full Handmaid's Tale on my bingo card. Well, not quite yet, but they certainly could. I don't think China has major issues with trying to go there, because I know that they have like things like, sex trafficking, sex slavery, and stuff like that. There was that woman, I can't remember her name right now. It's like something Park, of course. And she is she fled North Korea and got into South Korea and then like to China. And I think when she was living in China for a while, she thought it was like a lot better, but compared to the United States, it was way worse. But it was a lot better than North Korea. Just to give you an idea how bad North Korea is, according to her. Soon Yi Park, I think is her name. And she said that she was sold into like a kind of like a sex slavery ring in China. So I get they have that stuff there. So I guess it wouldn't be that much more to just be like, hey, how about we just, make women have babies? I mean, I definitely think that they would go there. I don't think they have a problem with it. Okay, and then Suckduck59 says, for $2, government's purpose is efficient, organized division of labor. I don't think that it ever comes out that way, but you go ahead and think that if you want to, that's fine. All right. So with that said, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're going to move on to the last story. I only did 3, so keep it short. All right. So this one's really interesting. A lawsuit filed in Multnomah County Circuit Court in Oregon challenges the state's laws that prohibit female genital cutting while permitting male circumcision, arguing that this disparity discriminates against boys and violates the state constitution's Equal Rights Amendment and Equal Protection Clause. The plaintiffs include a father and son circumcised decades apart, along with 2 brothers circumcised as infants, represented by attorneys Eric Klopper and Lake Paraguay. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. They contend that male circumcision lacks medical necessity, offers no proven health benefits, and can impair sexual function, with Paraguay describing the practice as barbaric and strange for non-consenting children. Infants, really. The suit seeks to either extend the ban on genital cutting to all children, regardless of gender, or strike down the female genital cutting prohibition entirely, though the latter would not override federal bans on female procedures. Circumcision rates have declined in the U.S., particularly in western states like Oregon, and while the American Academy of Pediatrics has stated benefits outweigh the risks, it does not recommend routine circumcision, a position criticized by some European medical groups for cultural bias. The lawsuit, described as part of a broader multi-state effort, highlights issues of children's bodily autonomy and equal protection under the law. And yes, there are activists, let's say imams and rabbis, that are claiming this is, with boys in particular, because they're using they're trying to basically say, look, if you guys are going to ban the circumcision of girls, you should ban the circumcision of boys. Makes perfect sense. This has to happen. But as usual, whenever you start to get close to even having a discussion around that, you get like these, rabbis and imams, but we don't have a lot of like a significant proportion or population of Muslims in the United States, not like you guys have in Western Europe. But we do have some, like in Minnesota, for example. It's like a big number of Muslims there. But yeah, mostly it's the Jews that don't like the circumcision being banned. So I'm just saying that's what's happening. We knew this forever.
I'm not discounting the Jews. I put it all in the realm of the Semites.
Yeah,
and that includes all of these regions. This is another one of those situations where we're having to go up against quote unquote the science. TM, and yes, it's the same bullshit that women's rights advocates have to go up against when they're bashing their heads against the psychotic traditions of North Africa and the Middle East, where the Semites hail from. It's not even necessarily Africa and the Middle East. It's a scant few tribal idiots in North Africa and the Middle East. They think they're solving a problem. They think they're addressing all manner of problems by amputating various parts of women's genitals to various degrees. And it's so easy to debunk their so-called science. At least it seems easy until you take these grievances to the people committing them, the tribes committing them in these parts of the world. They'll go ahead and tell you, no, these incisions are actually having positive effects. These patients don't get as many grievances as they would have you believe. Yeah, and then you'll be left having to prove a negative. You'll have to prove that the various pieces of bullshit they're presenting as a null positive are in fact an active negative. Good luck with that. Please do indulge in that. And then come back to the West and see how you get on trying to tell the psychotic butchers we have here that what they're doing to male babies' bodies is not necessarily positive. I think what I'm saying is we're not getting anywhere trying to tell people that male genital mutilation is at best fruitless and at worst evil. So maybe we should present the notion that female genital mutilation is just as viable as the male kind. And maybe when we are presented with the arguments for it, we can present all of this as a bulwark against the hypocrisy that has kept this barbarism going for so long. But that's pie in the sky at best. It's been made very clear quite recently that we have to just submit to what we call the science. Which means, fuck you, evidence doesn't matter, death and pain doesn't matter. What we as the ruling class want to do to you is the only thing that matters. Best of luck with that. And hi there, reply guy. Do your worst.
Well, we've been saying here for a long time, the only way that we're going to see circumcision get observed or overturned is when it affects girls. And then we're going to have a conversation about banning it. And that's the only way that boys have a chance of getting it banned, unfortunately. I mean, granted, at least in the States, it's not mandatory. And I think it is overall being done less because information is getting out there. But it is, unfortunately, that's the only way I think this is going to happen. It's either going to be from the bottom up, or it's going to be done when you ban female genital mutilation. Then you'll get the male genital mutilation as well. So, but yeah, I hope that I hope that this continues, and we'll follow up when we learn more on that. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Let me just double check, make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, well, I mean, that's all I had. So this is like a good 1 hour long sausage. We're gonna go into the Patreon show now, and we're gonna look at these files and see what we can find. So, and you know, maybe we'll just hang out and chit chat. If you guys want to join us, become a badger. Go to feedthebadger.com and sign up, and you'll be able to get into the Discord and chit chat with us in the live chat, or just in the live chat like you guys are doing right now. All right. So, with that said,
God bless us, everyone. This is why we have pigs in blankets, because they are small sausages. So, praise Bounteous, the small sausage with which you were presented this Christmas.
Yep.
Merry Christmas.
All right. So, with that said,
it was a small sausage, but it was wrapped in bacon.
Well, I don't want to say anything about that. Thanks, guys, for helping us out. Thank you, Mike, for joining me on the show. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. I won't see you guys until Christmas. If you guys want to call in, you can join us on Christmas. We're going to be doing a stream. It'll be me and Allison, most likely. And then I will see you guys the week after that. So, Merry Christmas to everybody, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday on the news show.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.